Blakesley, Calderon, Canella, Corbett, Correa, De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, Fuller, Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, Hernandez, Huff, Kehoe, LaMalfa, Leno, Ted Lieu, Carol Liu, Lowenthal, Negrete McLeod, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Rubio, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Vargas, Walters, Wolk, Wright, Wyland, Yee.
Call the absent members. Okay, Senators, please report to the floor for today's session. Please report to the floor. No, just looking. Okay, a quorum is present. Will the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We'll be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Rabbi Mona Alfi, after which please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Fuller.
Nelson Mandela taught that we must use time creatively and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. Every day is full of possibilities, if only we are open to them. Opportunities to perform acts of kindness and compassion and to bring healing into our world. May the Holy One open our eyes and our hearts to the needs of others and inspire us to use every day to do what is good and just. May this be God's will. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Have a good weekend.
Okay, members, we'll move to privileges of the floor. I see no microphones up. Messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Committee reports will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Motions, resolutions, and notices. Pursuant to Senate Rule 29.10C, the following bills will be referred to the Rules Committee. Item 70, AB 246. We'll go on to consideration of the daily file, Assembly third reading. Item 71. 71. Senator Anderson, are you ready? Senator Anderson?
Yes.
Item 71. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 324 by Assembly Member Buchanan, an act relating to juveniles and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Senators, this is a straightforward bill. It corrects a drafting error and codifies a current practice that we've used over the last 5 years. This urgency bill is supported by the California State Association of Counties, PORAC, and the county probation departments. I respectfully ask for an aye vote and request immediate transmittal to the Assembly.
Thank you. Any further debate or discussion? Any debate or discussion? This is a urgency measure, and we will. Secretary, call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Calderon. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carol Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Pavley. Aye. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Yee. Yee, aye.
Please call the absentees.
Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Kehoe. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Runner. Semidian. Wyland.
Please call the absent members.
Calderon. De Leon. Kehoe. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Runner. Semidian. Wyland.
Ayes 31, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 31, no 0. The measure passes. Okay. Returning to motions and resolutions, members, any business? Any further business? Senator Blakesley.
For the purpose of introduction, I'd like to go back to Mr. Steinberg's desk, please.
Without objection, you may.
Thank you very much, assembled body. It's a distinct privilege for me to introduce to you a real champion of human rights. California has led the way historically in identifying the need to support those who are engaged in a struggle around the world. We have with us Dr. Trita Parsi, Iranian-American, who's a nationally and internationally recognized award-winning author. I had the privilege of enjoying an evening with a group of Iranian Californians and hearing his presentation, enormously informative and instructive. One of the things I learned is that, in fact, half of all Iranians in America live here in California. and are tremendously concerned about human rights and what's happening in the Middle East. I would like to use this opportunity to introduce this gentleman and to thank the larger Iranian community for their continued contributions to California, and hope that we as a state and certainly as a legislative body can lend our efforts to help in this struggle to improve human rights around the world in general and in Iran in particular. Please welcome my guests.
Thank you. At your desk.
Thank you very much also for purpose of introduction. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to introduce a small business champion in my district, Mr. James Justice. He's in the back here. Mr. James Justice could come forward. I met James about 20 years ago when we were trying to figure out where to put this large homeless facility, and everyone in the neighborhood, of course, didn't want it in their neighborhoods, except for James. He not only has his small business there, he has his family there, he has his house there, and he lived in the neighborhood and wanted the homeless to come there, and he has helped for 20 years with the homeless. He also is very involved in the little carts for the kids, where they call that what doesn't have the engine. Not the go-karts, it's soapbox derby. The soapbox, so all the kids come to the soapbox derby there. He does this in the neighborhood. I know he's also very good friends with Mr. Kevin De Leon. And also, very importantly, every community should have a James Justice. I've known him for 20 years. He has a shop in the neighborhood. When there's a problem, I've seen him about 3 or 4 times when someone drives up, there's something wrong with their car. Twice there has been mothers with their cars full of kids, and the piece of plastic on the bottom of the car falls off and it's scraping the ground. They get in there, they don't have any money. He immediately goes underneath the car, he fixes it for them, tells them it's safe. Then they want to give him something, maybe a child or something, I don't know, because they don't have any money. And he says, no, ma'am, I'm just happy to do it. And they drive off. So anyway, it's my honor to introduce James Justice from my district. And again, every community should have a James Justice. He's up here for the Automobile Service Council. And again, I'd like you to welcome him to the chambers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Justice. Thank you for being a great citizen. Senator Dutton. Senator Dutton? What purpose do you rise?
For an adjournment of memory.
Proceed.
Yeah, Mr. President, I rise to request an adjournment of memory for Joe Bernard. Joe was a Chino pioneer. He passed away on February 11th at the age of 97 at the St. Mary Medical Center in Apple Valley. Joe was born July 17th, 1914 in Los Angeles and graduated from Chino High School in 1933. Joe married his beloved wife, Rose, in 1937, raising 2 children, Joanne and Eddie. Joe started farming in Chino in 1942 and quickly became known as the Corn King of Chino Valley. And if anybody knows anything about Chino, they have the finest corn in the entire world. Joe and Rose moved to Hesperia in 1982, but found retirement boring and opened a vegetable and fruit stand, earning him the title of Farmer Joe. Joe enjoyed traveling in his motorhome up until about 4 days before his death. Joe Bernard was preceded in death by his wife, Rose, 2 brothers, Henry and Paul, and grandson, Marty. Mr. Bernard is survived by his daughter, Joanne, her husband, Ken of Hesperia, and son, Ed, and his wife, Linda of Pasos Robles. His 4 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. He'll be sorely missed by family and friends, and I would request an adjournment in memory.
Thank you, Senator Dutton. We offer our condolences to the Bernard family as well. Members, any further business at this time? If there's no other business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Session will resume Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Tuesday at 2 o'clock is Monday, is the celebration of the President's birthdays. Senator De Leon?
Okay, Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few adjournment in memories, Mr. President. It's with a great sorrow that I rise to adjourn in the memory of Tony Wah Ing Leong. Tony Wah Ing Leong was a constituent of mine in the district and lived in Lincoln Heights. He fell ill early February and suddenly passed away February 12th, just a few weeks ago. At the USC County Hospital in Los Angeles. Senator Leland Yee organized an event, a hearing in Monterey Park where Senator Ted Lieu, Senator Gordon Nagetta McLeod, and Assemblymember Mike Ing had participated. He was a participant witness at that event, and we had lunch actually right after that event. Tony was born May 25th, 1953 in Guangzhou, China. He married in Hong Kong and immigrated to the United States, to Los Angeles specifically in 1984, seeking the American dream. And as an immigrant, Tony did not know much English, and he found work as a cook in the Chinese restaurants in Chinatown and was raised adjacent to Chinatown in Lincoln Heights. He raised his family in Lincoln Heights, I should say. He deeply became involved with the Chinese American community and gave back by helping new immigrants establish themselves and promoting civic engagement. Tony was the president of the Hop Sing Tong in 2010 as well as 2011, which focused on helping members seek employment and social services. He will be remembered by his relentless commitment to the Chinese American community and to his family. Tony is survived by his wife Jen and his two sons David and Danny, and his great friends and blood brothers Derek Ma, as well as his wife Daisy Ma. This was very sudden, his death. He will be deeply missed, and our thoughts and prayers go to his family as well as to his friends. Mr. President, I have one more adjournment in memory, and this is with deep sadness that I rise again in the memory of Dr. Jacinto J. Valencia. He was known as the mayor of Filipino Town in Los Angeles. Jay was one of the highest-ranking Filipino Americans in the union movement and the vice president for the Administrative Legislative Affairs of the National Union of Health Workers based here in California. He passed away the night of January 31st of this year at the young age of 63. Jay spent a lifetime to empower working families and the poor. He has a very strong record as an effective advocate for the Filipino American community. As a coalition coordinator for the Alliance for a Better California campaign, he addressed the needs of teachers, of firefighters, nurses, in various meetings, university forums, and media groups. He also helped recent immigrants, legal permanent residents of the United States, become naturalized citizens and registered new voters. Jay Valencia, the mayor of Filipino Town, represents the best of America. He is living proof that immigrants in this country can attain the American dream and make significant contributions to our society. According to Dr. Valencia, if I may quote him, quote, "One cannot organize the world before you organize your own family." His greatest accomplishments is his own exemplary, loving, accomplished family, anchored by his amazing wife, Rosalie. He is also survived by his son, John Valencia, his daughter, Eileen Mitchell, and grandsons and daughters, Celo, Makaya, and Naya. This is a man who will be deeply missed. I was very close to him. The first time I met him was when I was running for the State Assembly back in 2006. I went to Filipino Town, and I was told I was supposed to meet the mayor, and I thought it was Antonio Villaraigosa who was going to meet in Filipino Town. I walk into a Filipino restaurant. I walk in through the back room of that Filipino restaurant. The doors open up into the secretive room, and they present me Mr. Mayor, and I realized that it was an honorary, very high-status position to have because he was very well respected and deeply respected in the Filipino-American community, in particular from the Ilocano, Norte, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur region of the Philippines. So, Mr. President, as well as members, thank you for this opportunity to adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. If you'll bring both names to the desk so that we may properly memorialize these two fine citizens. Senator Emerson, what purpose do you rise?
Under motions and resolutions.
Proceed.
Mr. President, thank you. I'm here to report that the YMCA is in town, and we had a family feud effort the other evening, and the Republicans won again. We have a streak of 4 years in a row. But I also want to say that there's a lot of bipartisanship because there's only difference in one answer, and that's what separated the Republicans from the Democrats, and that other than that, we all had the same answer. So things are going to start looking better for us here in the state legislature, I do believe, because of that bipartisanship. Thank you.
Thank you. An omen we all look forward to. Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would ask that we adjourn in memory of a great hero of Christian faith and leader and mentor to many in the Sacramento region. Pastor Glenn Cole drove to work this week on February 14th, and he undid his seatbelt and then passed away in his car. He was always doing the things he felt would help and bless the lives of others, and even in his passing, his dedication and consistency is evident. He was a dedicated individual, very kind, loving, and without bounds in terms of reaching out to people. He was highly regarded as a loving husband, a father, a grandfather, a pastor, a mentor, and a friend. He was the visionary behind Capital Christian Center, which sits in the heart of the Sacramento region, and just recently we celebrated the Martin Luther King celebration there. He was most recently the pastor for 4 years at Trinity Life Center in Sacramento. Pastor Cole was kind, compassionate, hospitable, and an impactful preacher. I'll never forget when he would come and visit at our church, Bayside, and play the trumpet. He was an incredible musician and an incredible speaker. And he's survived by his wife, Marianne, and his sons, Rick and Randy. And incidentally, Rick is now the pastor at Capital Christian Center in Sacramento. And I would ask that we would just adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Gaines. Any further business, members? Okay, the desk is clear. The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Tuesday at 2 p.m.